So the learning objective, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to find a job description of interest and start a cover letter for the job of interest. So the competency that we are addressing is communication and digital technology. The agenda for today, we're going to do a quick icebreaker using Nearpod, this interactive tool. And then we have part one, which is cover letter basics. We'll spend about 20 minutes here just going over the basic format, and we'll go over an example of a cover letter. And then in part two, that will be the workshop aspect, where you're actually going to select a job of interest, and then you're going to write or revise your cover letter based on what you've learned in part one. So this is part one, cover letter basics. There should be, so you're going to see a question come up. What is your name, your major, and one word to describe cover letters? So just one word to describe cover letters. So we're still waiting on some people to answer. Okay, so we have 67% participation. We're waiting on 40% more. So you'll be seeing some people's answers. So a letter for a job. Lipika says one word, organized, absolutely. I love one's answer, tedious, absolutely. We have Kyra, she says it's a summary. Right, says experiences, exclamation point. That is very important because that is absolutely what cover letters are about. The hero says application, so it is a part of an application. So very good. So we have some ideas, basic ideas of what a cover letter is all about. So let's go over the basics. In a cover letter, you're going to have your address and the date. You're going to have your contacts, so the person who you are sending the letter to, their address and name. Then you're also going to have an introduction, 1 to 2 body paragraphs where you're really talking about your experiences, and then you want to have organization-specific information and a conclusion. So sometimes you can put the organization-specific information and a conclusion in the same paragraph. Sometimes you may want to make those separate. So some people say that a cover letter needs to just be 1 page. We suggest 1 page, but sometimes you need a little more space, especially if you have more experiences. But these are just the basics. So let's kind of go over the address. You're going to format your cover letter like a traditional letter. A cover letter should be no more than 1 page in length unless you need more information like what we just talked about. Only include the street address, the city, the state, and the zip code. Okay, so email and phone number is going to go at the end in the concluding paragraph, so there's no need for you to put that at the top of your resume unless you want to format it that way, but you're going to be repeating it in the concluding sentences. All right, so I'm just going to take a moment to check the chat. Let me know. Sandeep has a question. Sandeep, if you have a question and you would like to ask that, then please go ahead and you can ask it now by unmuting, or you can drop it in the chat. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to greetings. So greetings can get tricky. So you want to make sure that you address people properly. So Mr., Mrs., Doctor. If the contact is unclear, so let's say you have a person whose name is Leslie, for example. Leslie is a unisexual name. So if you're not sure, if you can't look online and find out, then you can use this to whom it may concern or Dear Search Committee. But that should be a last resort. It's totally appropriate to reach out and find out who you're supposed to address your cover letter to. And in most cases, they have who to address the cover letter to in the job description. So make sure that you try to find out who the main contact is. That does go a long way. So Sandeep's question is, are you going to share this presentation? Absolutely. Thank you for asking that. I'll share it with Kyra and she'll be able to share it out with you all. All right. So paragraph 1, explain why you are writing. It is important to just say, I'm writing for this particular position. You can also say where you found the information, the position, and you want to summarize your strongest qualification. So you want to think about paragraph 1 of your cover letter as your thesis statement. So here's an example. I am writing to express my interest in the position as a social media intern for Jones Media Services. So we know that this person is specifically applying to this job and that they're applying to be a social media intern. Then they say where they learned about the position. I learned about this position through your TigerLink Powered by Handshake posting on the University of Memphis website. This position aligns well with my background, working in various capacities on social media campaigns, as well as my ability to learn new systems quickly. So in this third sentence, they're specifically pointing out the top things that make them the right candidate for that position. So it's just that simple. And a lot of times it's very difficult to even get started with the cover letter. So this kind of helps you to focus in. So there's another question in the chat about the goal. So what about my goal? Rai, can you expand on your question?
Hey, I've seen some people, they write about their goal and their aim, why they're writing cover letter to a specific institute. So I'm wondering if I need to, if my cover letters need to include that or not.
Oh, absolutely. So what you're getting at is what I usually teach for people to put in the third paragraph, but you can also put that in the first paragraph, your connection to the company, why you're interested. Absolutely. You can put that in the first paragraph, even as an interesting starting sentence. So I'll show you another example later in this presentation that does that in a way. But the basics are for you to just make sure that you say where you're applying, and you can optionally put where you found the posting, and then you need a thesis statement of your highlights. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. I have another questions before we go further. Usually it's gonna be like 1 page, or it can go like, longer than 1 page.
So it can be more than 1 page. What people typically suggest is that it's 1 page, because what you don't want, unless you're applying for a director level position, you don't want to write an essay, because what often happens when people see that and they are, company managers or very busy recruiters, they may not have the time to read through all of that. So they'll just miss a lot of the information that you're putting in there. So your ability to be able to synthesize that information and just quickly say why you're the best candidate is important. So that's why we say it should be 1 page, but if you have a lot of experience, then you can go ahead and maybe go to a 2nd page, but not too much. So the goal is 1 page. Good question.
Okay. Another question, if you don't mind. So, yeah, do you think it's gonna be a good idea to make them like a section, like a point, like let's say, like for example, um, it should cover like the address and the date.
Mm-hmm.
It's like make it as a point and then put my information on it, and then introduction about myself, and make it like a small paragraph, and then move to the organization or other things. I mean, what I'm trying to say is kind of like make it as a point, is like the resume or something like that. Is that gonna work? I mean, did you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes, I absolutely understand.
Okay.
So you're saying, should you have subsections, right?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, exactly.
So sometimes people have subsections, and that's fine, but really it is a letter. So what we want to suggest is that you write it as a letter, and usually letters just have those paragraphs. So what I'm going to do after I go over the basics is I'm going to have you all look at a PDF that is the cover letter guide for the University of Memphis, and it has a specific example of how you can format your letter.
All right, thank you.
Okay, you're very welcome. Thank you for all those questions. That was great. So, and like Rai did, if you all have questions, then go ahead and let me know. Thank you for raising your hand. So, paragraph 2. You want to describe your qualifications in more detail. So you've given them just a highlight in maybe a sentence or two in the introduction for why you're the best candidate. Now you're going to go into more detail. This is often where people want to just restate what they put in their resumes. That's not what you're doing here. This is your opportunity to not only show your qualifications and a brief summary of your experiences, but you are showing your writing skills, and you're also showing your passion and your abilities outside of just that resume. So when you look at your resume and you line up your resume and your greatest qualifications, you want to think about what's missing from that picture that you can describe in the cover letter. So you want to also use keywords from the job description to explain how your qualifications match what they're looking for. So that means that every cover letter is going to be different. The good thing is that if you know that you're in an industry like business, if you know that you're in the industry like research, then there are going to be some things that you can kind of carry over and copy and paste into some of your cover letters. But the best candidates are going to go ahead and specify their cover letters. So you also want to use specific examples. A resume is missing examples. It's more so of an overview or snapshot. A cover letter gives you the opportunity to say how you have done something or mastered a skill, or you have made your place of work a better place as the result of you being there. So, and you also want to make sure, as we said, that you don't copy your resume verbatim. So I have seen cover letters where people literally copy and paste aspects of their cover letter into their resume. You should at least try to restate what's in your resume. If you are going to use some parts of it, restate it in a different way, because oftentimes recruiters are looking at your resume and your cover letter, and they will see that you copied and pasted. All right. Paragraph 2, I'm going to give you all a quick example. So remember that this person is looking for a position as a social media intern at Jones Media. So they're saying that they already have many different marketing experiences. So they worked at the Daily Hampson at the University of Memphis. They handled many different accounts. They were responsible for 2 fundraising campaigns. They used digital marketing to reach donors. So while they weren't a social media intern, they're showing that they have social media and digital marketing skills. And then they also interned at the Memphis Flyers, so they got additional marketing skills. So what you notice is they don't have all social media background, but they're able to say, I'm a marketing person. I'm able to transfer those marketing skills to be a social media intern. All right. And they also add something that I want you all to consider doing as well. What are you doing to keep your skills current? So it may be LinkedIn Learning. It may be that you're doing some other certification that's going to help you be more marketable. And that's something that you want to talk about. So this person said that they're also proficient with Adobe Creative Suite. So that's going to be important to that job. There may be some things that you weren't able to represent on your resume that you're able to do. And the body paragraphs of your cover letter give you a chance to explore that and explain that. So here's paragraph 3. This is where you want to give company knowledge. So I want to stop for a second and move to the chat. Is it a good idea to include specific classes or labs that are relevant in this section? That is a great question, Juan. You can give some general ideas of classes. So you may pick a couple of classes that you want to highlight, and that's totally appropriate if you're wanting to go into research or it's directly applicable to what you want to do. What you don't want to do is just list out classes that may be applicable, but it's just too many, because then that gets to look a lot like the resume, because you can also list those classes on the resume. So I do have an example that I'm going to show you all during the workshop portion, where the student actually talked about 2 classes that were directly applicable to the job description and how those classes helped her to make her skills current. So that's something that's a really good question. Yes, but I use that aspect of the cover letter wisely. Yes, you can use add relevant classes. Good question. All right, so in paragraph 3, you want to show company knowledge and match your values and goals to the company's values and goals. So don't just look at the job description, because usually they throw a little paragraph on there that kind of talks about what the company does, but you want to go online, do your research, go to Glassdoor, check out some of the company reviews. And a lot of times that'll tell you if you want to even continue to apply to the organization at all. So that's a helpful skill, but it also lets you know what their mission and vision is. And you can see if your values align with that company, so that you can truly and honestly put that you want to work for the company or organization in that 3rd paragraph. So here's an example. Jones Media Services is one of the largest and most highly esteemed media companies in the industry. A recent article in the June 25th issue of Business Week indicated that your company continues to lead the industry in the use of social media and web-based marketing. So that's just 2 sentences that shows that this person took a little bit of extra effort to personalize this cover letter. All right. I am excited about the position at Jones Media Services, and I believe that my education and experience in marketing, I can reach your inactive advertisers and help develop your new business categories. So they're very specific. This is what I offer to you all. So one more time, this is what I offer. You will find my excellent work ethic, dependability, initiative, and drive to be valuable to the overall mission of your company. All right, so that's just a strong way to really start to close things up. And then this is the conclusion. The conclusion is usually only a few sentences. So you're just wrapping up. You're going to request an interview, provide your phone number and email, and then just thank them for consideration. So this is paragraph 4 example. I welcome the opportunity to interview at your convenience. In the meantime, please feel free to contact me at phone number or tomtiger@Memphis.edu. Thank you for your time and consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. So just wrap it up right there, very short. Now, as a part of the format of a letter, you are going to add a signature. So you may say sincerely, that's fine. Some people like to say best regards. We usually just say go with sincerely. And then if you are printing it out, which is rare now, but if you're printing it out, then sign it. And if it's digital, then you could do a digital signature, but that's not required. You don't really have to go through that extra effort. That's up to you. All right. So there are enclosures if there are some more documents that you're having in the same file. But if it's digital, then it's just an attachment. So before we move to part 2, I want to pause. I want to make sure that there are no questions. All right. So now we're going to move to the workshop part. This is starting your cover letter. So what you all are going to do on your screen is go ahead and look at the document that you see there. That is the cover letter guide. Go ahead and click that link to that document. And there are a few people who still haven't joined us on Nearpod, and that's all right. So if you can't, for some reason, see that document, then I'm dropping it in the PDF viewer. It's called Cover Letter Guide. I'm going to be giving you all a little bit of time to just look through it. All right. So there are steps that we're going to go through right now. Kyra, could you go to page 2 of the cover letter guide? All right. So on page 2, you see that step 1, you're going to format your cover letter. Then step 2, you're going to determine your most related skills. Step 3, you're going to write your opening paragraph. Step 4, you're going to write your body paragraphs. And then step 5, you're going to close. So really the bulk of your time is going to be spent in those first 3 steps. If you move to page 4 and page 5, then you see kind of an outline of those steps, and then you see an example. So that's the example that I just went over, and that is the full example. So now you get to see what it looks like put all together. All right, so they're writing to Dr. Doe, Dr. Jane Doe. They have their address, they have Dr. Doe's business address, and then they have the introduction there. You're able to see those paragraphs. And then if you scroll down a little bit, then you're also able to see the closing that I just talked about. So notice that Tom Tiger didn't put an electronic signature. That's perfectly fine. All right. On the last page, there is a checklist. The last page of this PDF, there's a checklist. So you're able to just double check to make sure that you hit all of those points that I just talked about. All right. So now we're going to start this process. What you're going to do, and I'm going to give you all about 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. You're going to find a job description that you like. All right. So there are many websites for jobs selection. So Handshake is one. So you can go to handshake.com. That's where we post jobs. Indeed is another that's very popular. LinkedIn, I know you all be getting some information about how to create, update, and optimize your LinkedIn page, but that's a great place to find jobs. Monster, Glassdoor, Idealist, USA Jobs. Those are some of the ones that we love to use in the US. What you want to do when you're looking at these is to use the following keywords: OPT, CPT, or H1B. So those are really good keywords that you can use to make sure that you're looking at ones that are going to be aligned with your needs. There are some websites that have been created just for international students. So one is Going Global. It's really spelled Going Global, which I like as a Southerner, but it's Going Global there. And then we also have My Visa Jobs. So those are 2 great websites. And then there are some other places where you can find jobs. So CIES is a place where you can verify that the jobs that you've found are in line with the requirements for the visas. And then if you just, after a few minutes, if you can't find a job description that you like, then I'm going to put a link in the chat with sample job descriptions so that you can just pick a general job description so you can get the experience of going through this process. So let's say you're interested in accounting, then this website on Monster will just have a general job description to prepare you for any of those cases. So I'm going to give you all 4 minutes. The time is now 2:33. So at 2:37, I'll come back. All right, take about 1 more minute. And what I would like you to do, just so I know that everyone has had the opportunity to find a job description or choose a job that they'd like, then I want you to go ahead and let me know with a thumbs up, a sticker thumbs up if you prefer. All right. All right, so it's now 2:37. If you're still looking, then that's fine. What we're going to do, I don't want you to spend a lot of time there because we want to make sure that we get the opportunity to practice. So what I'm doing right now is I'm giving you all this activity sheet here. What you're going to do is you're going to copy this. So you're going to go to File, and you're going to click Make a Copy. File and make a copy. This is the cover letter workshop activity sheet. So this is your way to format the cover letter, and this is also where you can find the cover letter guide, which goes over all of what I talked about today, and it has that format and template. All right. Then you're going to connect your job description to your experiences. So I have up right now a teacher job, a job description for a teacher. So the first thing that I see is develop and issue educational content, including notes, tests, and assignments. I am going to pop that in right there. Develop and issue educational content, including notes, tests, and assignments. Then I have to figure out when in my career have I done that. Well, when I did student teaching, I created an assessment to test grammar skills, right? So now I've proven that I'm able to do that. When have I been able to issue assignments? Well, I created and assigned a project for students to demonstrate mastery of writing skills. Those are two very specific ways that I've been able to show that I meet that qualification. What you'll also notice is that sometimes you may end up not having the qualification. So that gives you the opportunity to reflect on what skills you need to gain while you are in college, while you're going through this program, so that when you graduate, you will have that skill. What experiences do you need to cultivate for yourself? The other side of that is you're not going to mention that you do not have that skill. I have seen cover letters where the person starts out saying, I may not have this qualification or that qualification, but I have these. What you don't want to do is highlight that. You're going to focus on the skills that you do have and make those as prominent as possible in a brief way. All right? Every qualification that you have will not make it to your cover letter, but you want to just make sure that you highlight them in this chart. The other way that you can use this chart is when you apply for other positions, you can look back at some of the qualifications that you had that you've already highlighted, and you can pull those out for other cover letters where that's being asked for. Remember that you also want to use some of the language. So I see the word develop. So instead of using created, I'm actually going to use the word develop. All right, instead of assigned, I'm going to say issued. All right. So I want to make sure I see several people who have gotten on the activity sheet. So if you have not, then what I'm going to do is share that. If you're not on Nearpod, I'm going to share it in the Zoom chat just to make sure that everybody has access to that, that cover letter activity sheet. So that is what we are doing now. I'm going to be quiet for about 5 minutes so that you all can focus on starting that process. Take about 1 more minute. All right. So, what we're going to be doing, and you will have time to continue this process and talk to me, but we're going to go ahead and go to the next step so that you can make sure that you know what the next steps are before we wrap up. So, I'm going to close this activity, and remember, you have access to this in the chat. So, we talked about the chart. What's left on your screen should be your job description, the cover letter workshop activity sheet with the chart, Nearpod where you're viewing this presentation, and Zoom if you have any questions. I've given you all access already to one example. What I'm going to be showing you right now is another example. This is just for presentation purposes only. This is a real student. I changed their name and I pulled out a few things, but this is a real example. So what you have in the cover letter guide is a standard example. What I want to show you is a real example because to Raid's point at the beginning of this session, he wanted to know what other things you need to put in. And what is missing from the standard one that I sent is personality. So in a cover letter, you are able to express your personality a little more and your voice. So on this is a cover letter for being a teacher. So a pre-K through third grade teaching position. So this person very clearly has passion for what they do. And that is not something that can be shown in a resume. So you can hear this person's voice as you're reading. So they use the same standard template and they put their own spin on it. So if you look at paragraph 2 of this, then you see where it says, for as long as I can remember, I have loved teaching children. From a young age, it's been evident that the most effective teachers have an outgoing personality, along with a healthy imagination when dealing with young children. So she's giving the reader a bit of herself there. And then she goes into her skills. So she implements positive reinforcement. So her way of managing a classroom is going to be to positively reinforce the good behavior instead of focusing on the negative behavior. So she's saying a lot about herself in just 4 or 5 sentences. All right. Then in paragraph 3, she's giving more information about her experiences. So she doesn't take attendance in traditional ways. So in the teacher's job description, one of the things that you'll always see is something about attendance. She's talking about attendance, but she's also saying how she enhances that experience by using puffballs and rocks and stars to take attendance instead of just going down the list. So she's showing her creativity there. And then this is a special time, so that can't be forgotten. In the 4th paragraph, she does talk about being adaptable, and she talks about the switch to online learning and how she has been able to thrive in that environment. If you scroll down a little bit, you will see where it says, thank you. You will see where it says at the end of the I am flexible paragraph, taking classes like child psychology and assessments, I have learned to create formative and summative assessments for children that are appropriate and yet challenging. All right. So they've put in 2 classes that relate to something that the job description has specifically asked for. And the interesting thing about this particular example is that this person is a integrative studies major. So their degree will not say teaching all learners. Their degree will not say something specific to let people know that they are qualified to teach. So this is very important that they show in their cover letter and in their resume their qualifications. All right. So that is an example. You have that there. We'll also be sharing that information, but you have it and you can download it now. I want to call out an opportunity in these last few minutes for you to schedule an appointment at Memphis.edu/TigerLink. So if you go to Memphis.edu/TigerLink, then it'll take you to a page where you can connect with your career specialist. And the next step is to go through the process of getting this looked at by your career specialist or by somebody that you trust, so that you can ensure that you are presenting yourself well. All right, so I'm going to stop talking for a second. We're going to have a moment for questions, and then anybody who wants to stay on the line and continue to work, then we'll continue to work.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Um, is it gonna be one letter that I'm gonna apply it for? For all the job that I'm gonna apply, or just, or I'm gonna, write a specific letter for a specific application.
Absolutely. So you want to make sure that you specify your and make your cover letter specific to the jobs that you're applying to. So let's say, what's your major?
Clinical nutrition.
Okay. So let's say that you are applying to 2 jobs in that field and the job descriptions are similar. Then based on what we've talked about, which of the paragraphs would you need to change?
Um, Based on who, I'm gonna submit the or I'm gonna send my information to, depending on their position, and the institute is definitely is gonna be changed, something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so
Um,
definitely the people, definitely the paragraph about where you're showing your company knowledge. The beginning part, the first paragraph, you're going to also change the position you're applying for and where you're applying for. Because guess what? Some people have applied for jobs, and I've actually sat on several hiring committees where people have had great cover letters, and then they put, that's why I want to work at UT Health. They're applying for the University of Memphis, but they put UT Health. So that lets us know that, they're applying to other places, of course, but they didn't take the time to make that particular cover letter specific to the role for which they were applying. So you just want to make sure that you do that. And an easy way to do that is to just go ahead and copy and paste certain sections, like what that person did in the PDF, copy and paste that into another file and just go through and make sure that you don't have anything related to the previous job in that file. And then when you look at the job description and you look at your qualifications, make sure that you're using the same language in your cover letter, your new cover letter, to apply for that second job. Does that answer your question?
yeah, absolutely. This, clarify. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Any other questions? All right. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and close it for those who are ready to go ahead and get off and start that process of writing their cover letters. For anybody else who wants to stay, then I'm going to be here for the next 5 or 10 minutes or so, just to answer any lingering questions you may have. I thank you so much for coming. This has been a great session. You all have a wonderful day.
I have one question.
Hi.
Hi. Some of the employers might have their own format for a cover letter.
Mm-hmm.
So how far is it okay that we put our spin on it and modify?
So if they have their own format, then I suggest that you adhere to their format.
Okay.
As long as you're within their format, if you want to add a little personality, then that's fine. But if they've specified a way that they want it, you're going to go with that way.
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you.
You're welcome.